So the most important, the first question most people get, ironically, even before they ask the question about, hey, what is UX design or how to get started in UX design, the biggest question which usually comes is, hey Anudeep, what is the difference between UI and UX? Should I learn UI design? Should I learn UX design? What is this? Right? What is not UI design? What is not UX design? So, once for all, let me give clarity about that. Right? In this answer, I'll specifically speak about the difference part of it and your perspective about the difference, right? More than the exact definition of these things. So first, let me give you some context about why this field was popularly called UI UX design, right? Most people still think, still call this field as UI UX. There are some people who call it as UX UI, right? UX/UI, UI/UX and all that stuff. Let me explain. Please carefully listen, because there are a lot of misconceptions around this concept about what UI is and what UX is and all these things. There are a lot of misconceptions. I'm going to talk about those things as well, right? Okay. So the reason why this field was called as UI UX design is because UX design in reality can actually mean a very, very, very broad set of things. If you have attended the session 1, when I explained the understanding of what UX design is, what did I tell you? I told you that, hey, you know what? I gave you the example of a switch, I gave you example of WhatsApp, and I gave you multiple examples through which I told you, we also did the exercise of a fan, right? Through multiple examples, what did I tell you? That a person who is actually doing all this magic in such a way that it is very obvious and easy, a product is obvious and easy for us to use, this person is doing something, right? This person is trying to understand about the users and trying to build an experience. When I gave this understanding about UX design, what I did is I told you that, yeah, you know what, UX design need not be very specific exactly to one kind of products, right? Like digital products, what we use today, right? The products which we use on mobile phones, desktops and all those things, it need not be that. And towards the end of the intro session, what I told you is UX design has always been there, right? From the person who invented the wheel, probably some television or whatever, right? From those people who have been building products in many years ago, till many years later, when a lot of kinds of products will come, UX design will always stay, right? So user experience design, all these words say is there are users and there are people who are having experiences. It doesn't really tell anything that you're going to have these experiences through a digital device. Always these designers, when I give this historical context, UX designers have always been there and will be there in the future. But what is it that the UX designers will do at the current time? Like at any point, a given point of time, probably given it's 2022 or probably given it is 2050, what is it that the UX designers will do at that point of time? UX designers usually will work on the problems which are being actively solved by the businesses at that point of time. All of you should understand this point, right? If today most businesses are using multiple digital devices to solve problems and go and utilize them as business opportunities, most UX designers will be engaged in that. And that's the reason why in 2022 or many years from before and many years later from now, UX designers are majorly focused on doing user experience design for interfaces. And therefore this field was because of doing this user experience design for user interfaces, because of that reason, this field started getting the name called UI UX design, right? But why was I saying was? Why is it that I was saying that this field was being called as UI UX design and no more people are not really actively calling it as UI UX design? The main reason is because of the misconceptions which have started coming into the whole field about UI UX design, right? Let me tell you one thing. UI design, user interface design, if you have understood by now, is a part of this entire process which is there as UX design, right? You are creating experiences for users. Where are you creating these experiences? You're creating them on interfaces. How are you creating these things? You're using multiple tools. How are you arriving at these experiences? You're using multiple processes, right? So the medium through which you actually execute these things, or the result, how you actually deliver these experiences, should not really define how UX is done, right? In fact, it should be the other way around. So because you'll have to go and build experiences, you have to You have to solve business problems. You have to identify opportunities where things people can do it in a very easy manner. Because you need to do those things, you will go and use the tools which are there right now and the processes which you have to do right now. But what happened is a lot of misconceptions in this started coming, and people started thinking that UI UX design meant UI design and UX design. Even today, a lot of people call, hey, you know what? This is UI and that is UX. This is not UX, this is UI, right? Oh, why are you calling it UI? This is UX, no? What I actually mean is, whatever is UI design, whatever is done on interfaces, wherever they see colors and all these things are applied, wherever they see tool being used, they call it as UI design. And wherever they see some kind of fancy processes, some kinds of flow diagrams and charts, and some kind of terminology and jargon, they term it as UX design. Now we got this perspective that because of this misconception, most people call UI design and they separate this. What is not UI, they call it as UX, and what is not UX, they call it as UI. Please stop doing it right away, right? We call this as UX design. It includes following UX design processes, includes doing UI design, it includes building architectures, it includes everything which is possibly done in UX design for the current period. Like if you are going to be solving for businesses which are using these interfaces to do their businesses, then you are a UX designer solving for interfaces. Now coming to the main part of the question about what is the difference. Now that's when people start asking, what's the difference between UI and UX, right? Firstly, about this is, if you have understood what I told until now, you will realize that you can't call a part of something and differentiate with the entirety of something, right? Because you're thinking that this is UI, this is UX, therefore you're asking like, hey, what are the differences, right? Now what I'm explaining is this is UI and this whole thing is UX. So there is no question about you comparing these two, right? So please stop having this perspective that if I'm doing all these things, this is called as UI, and if I'm not doing these things, if I'm doing all these things, I'm called as UX. So the word difference is not the right way to ask this question. Then when do I call myself as a UI designer and when do I call myself as a UX designer, right? This is a better way of asking this question. You can call yourself as a UX designer if you are doing any of the activities which can be done for building experiences for users. Let us say you're going and researching from users about how they are behaving. Let us say you are involving in identifying problems for businesses. Let us say you're involving in building architectures for the problems, right? Let us say you're involving in making screens. Let's say you're involving in building colors, making screens and all those things. Let us say you're involving in building tools. Let us say you're involving in going and testing out with users. Whatever it is, any activity which you do to go and improve experiences for users, for businesses to solve problems, you can call yourself a UX designer. And a very popular misconception is that, hey Anudeep, so as a UX designer, am I supposed to do all these things? Then only can I call myself a UX designer? Need not be. Please understand this. It is not that, hey, you know what, I'm sitting in my position right here, right? It's not that for every project I do, for everything I do, I'll be doing all these things for all projects and then only I can call myself a UX designer. No. Because all of you have to understand one thing, that UX design field is a human-centric field. We are solving problems for humans. And we as humans are solving problems for humans. You cannot solve problems for humans by making it like a textbook saying that, hey, you know what, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do. No, it all depends on the kind of problems you're solving, the kind of situations you are in, right? So please be clear, any kind of activity which you are good at, that you can pick. And if you're doing it so that you can enhance the experience of the users for businesses to solve their problems, you can call yourself a UX designer, right? Now, that means the question is, hey, if I am doing only UI part of UX design, can I call myself a UX designer? Yes, absolutely can call yourself as UX designer. So please don't let no one bullshit you saying that, hey, you are UI designer. I'm a UX designer, right? You should definitely go and watch that reel on my Instagram, right? Let no one bullshit you about that, hey, you are that lowly UI designer. I am this UX designer. I don't do all that screen doing and all those things. I do the double diamond process and card sorting and all these things. And then I am called as a UX designer. Please let no one bullshit you about this, right? On the other way, it doesn't mean that, oh, so as a UX designer, then if I just learn how to build UI, anyway, Anudeep is telling you can call myself as UX designer. So if I just go and build UI, is it enough? You're missing the point. The point is, to go and build experiences for users, if you will have to go and talk to users, you'll have to learn about how to talk to users. If you have to go and execute those design, whatever problems you have built, if you have to build architecture sort of it, you'll have to go and build architectures for it. If you aim at making experiences better, you will learn about all these aspects and you will utilize them based on your skills. It is wrong to think that you have to do all these things, and it is also wrong to think that I will only focus only on one part of UX design, because the heart, you have to get the heart of it. We are aiming at building better experiences, and for that reason, if it requires that you do all of them, you should do all of them. If it requires only if you do one or two of them, you should do one or two of them, right? So please get this clear. For you to remember this, let me tell you a small story. I think I told you this story also. If you are a doctor, right? If some patient comes to you, right? When a patient comes to you, you can't be like, you listen to the entire problem, you understood their problem and all those things, you wrote a report of what the problem is, and you can't give that report to the patient and tell them, hey, go home, I've written down what your problem is, I've written down everything about, I understood about you, but sorry, I cannot operate on you, just go home. It doesn't work, right? You have to finally give the solution, you will have to operate, you have to cure the disease, right? On the other hand, when a person comes, you're like, hey, doctor, the moment you start talking, you're like, no, stop. I know exactly what to do to you. I'll directly take you to the operation theater. I'll do all the operation. And after that, I'll make you cure. It doesn't work like that. You will have to listen to the person. You have to understand them. Only then you'll actually be able to give the right kind of a solution to them. Right? So both of them are very important. It is important that you understand about your users. You go and build architectures. It is important to do all these things. And also it is important to deliver your experiences. Right? So this clears a lot of conceptions and misconceptions about this entire industry which plays the game of UI design and UX design. So I hope you got the perspectives right. Awesome. Always remember this doctor example. Okay? Once you remember the doctor example, then everything is clear. Yeah.